Many women are not prepared for the emotional effects of divorce, especially if they are the one that initiated the separation and divorce. The so-called divorce support they receive from meaningful family and friends often wind up being an ex-bashing session, which makes her feel even worse about herself and her situation. The many feelings that come with divorce are anger, fear, guilt, anxiety, and grief. And it's quite out there. I remember when I was in the middle of my divorce at the time, and even if it was restored 2 years later, the angry letters I got from church members and how wrong I was, how I should not have started an aerobics class, how I should not have done this, how should I have not done that, and how dare I do what I do. And guess what? They knew absolutely nothing about what really was going on. Does God choose for divorce? No. The answer is no. But does that mean and give it us the rights to just bash people, to trash people, and to actually push them out of their relationship with God instead of come like a loving friend beside them and work with them in a way that they feel accepted and appreciated instead of just shattered? With me is Gianna, and she knows all about what it is just recently to go through a divorce. It is painful and hard. And today our goal is not to focus on what is right and what is wrong as much, but more, when this is you, how can we help you right now to understand that you are not alone? Gianna, you just went through a divorce. I assume you tried everything to get it right, to fix the problem?
Yeah, we actually tried for quite some time. My divorce was final last May, but we have been separated for like almost 2 years now. And I did try. We went to counseling. We got different advice from different people from church, pastors, mentors, and we still didn't make it.
Yeah, it's tough out there, isn't it?
It
is.
is
Really tough.
Yeah.
What were some of the issues that you guys were struggling with?
A lot of baggage from the past.
Before you got married even, both?
Yes. Yeah.
You see, that usually gets brought into that marriage, isn't it?
It does. And like, we thought we did things right. We didn't live together before marriage. We had accountability. We even did the premarital counseling. And we thought we're good to go. And all of a sudden, things just blew up when we got married.
Was that right at the beginning, or that took a little while?
No, it was right in the beginning.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So now the baggage you're talking about, often there is a lot of trash that we bring because we brought up in a culture, and then the other person doesn't know us as well as they think, and that all falls apart basically. And often, I think one of the big ones is today, trust issues. Was that with you guys too?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some things from the beginning of the marriage that he brought in that I actually wasn't aware of. I was aware of, but he said he was healed from it. And so it kind of blew up in the beginning of our marriage. Actually started in the honeymoon, and I later found that out. So it was really hard to trust. And personally, I think that once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to regain it. I know that marriages do it, regain the trust, but it takes years. And
it does, because
yeah,
I remarried my husband twice.
Okay.
And that trust wasn't, you think it is there during the honeymoon stage, right?
Sure.
But then when reality sets in, it takes years. And that's on both sides. It just takes years to get that trust back to the point that you actually feel comfortable. And it takes a lot of work too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Now when I went through my divorce, there was a lot of, I was the one that initiated. I was the one that hated. I was the one that was bitter. And my pain turned into unforgiveness. My unforgiveness turned into bitterness. And my bitterness actually turned into hatred. When my husband would drive by to pick up our 3 young children at the time, I would actually shoot his tires in my mind. That was me. I became very, very angry. And that's kind of a part of the process. I'm not saying it is right, but isn't that a part of the process when you're trying to deal with this whole turmoil with the guilt inside of you, and yet the struggle and then the bashing of the church members?
Right.
How did you experience that?
Yeah, I definitely felt a lot of anger in the beginning, and a lot of disappointment.
Disappointment in you or in other people?
Just disappointment in the marriage, because I really felt like we did do things the right way. And so my question was, we did do things the right way. What happened, God? What did we miss? And I remember God speaking to me and saying, well, it's just also about choices. You know, the choices that we both have made in different ways has affected our marriage. And I think that, you know, like it was really hard, just like right in the beginning, just that anger and the loss of it, and what am I going to do? And you know, I mean, divorce is such a taboo thing anyways. And so shame was one of them. And so definitely those feelings were coming for some time.
Yeah, shame's a huge one. I remember the shame, and while I was divorced, making the mistakes during that time because of the shame, trying with myself to, instead of going up,
right,
I went out. And you know, that didn't help at all. So how did you deal with the church basically doing this to you? You know?
Yeah, so I think for me, I wasn't super involved in church at the time. I was kind of into transition from one church to another. I went from the church that I was attending with him to back to my home church from 7 years ago. And so it wasn't so much the church people, it was just a lot of like friends and different people that didn't know the real stuff that we were dealing with in our marriage. And it took me a while to forgive some of the things that I didn't know about, that I found out about. And I think a lot of people were blaming me for not being able to forgive right away. And I think that was really hurtful because people they were not in my shoes. Yeah. And so that really hurt me for a while. And I did get some help through that time I went to a divorce recovery group.
What's that really like? Because you know, I did it on my own, and it was hard.
Yeah.
It was, especially with 3 kids of 1, 3, and 5, you know?
Yeah.
It was tough. So, you know, divorce group, what is divorce group, and will it actually help? And how will God help with you? And what happens to most of us, remember what happened in the Garden of Eve, or in the garden at the beginning when God created the world? People hide from God when they're in trouble. But shouldn't we run to God for trying to work through it? Stay tuned. I'm sure you want to hear more. Are you one of those that makes the same mistakes over and over and over again? Do you feel beat down in life and you want to get it, but you're just kind of stuck? I have great news for you, because we have created for you something brand new. We're going to teach you how to dress for success and to put on the armor of God. And for you specifically now, we have a free download that you could get from our website at barbtv.org that will help you to dress for success. How do you put on the full armor? How do you put on the shoes of peace? What does the sword of the Spirit mean? And can you truly have a word from God, a rhema word, that you could fight God's way instead of your own way? I look forward to teach you, to equip you, and to show you in this free download that there is hope for you. Go to barbtv.org. Have you ever hoped for or wished for that perfect marriage? I remember when I was 17 and I was swimming in the river by Jericho, and I was going through the water where there was little fish around me, and the oleanders were blooming right above the water. And I dreamed my dream husband, and I told the Lord all about it. He had to be able to play tennis. He had to snow ski. He had to be handsome. I had a list of 20 things. We were going to have 2 children. I had it planned out. And I tell you, about 10 years later, 3 kids, and in a different country, and everything different, and it not being as easy as I thought, reality set in. Now, God wanted it the way I actually had imagined it all the way. And he did play tennis, and he did ski, and it was all there. But we ourselves got in the way and created problems against each other. So how do you flip that around, and how do you get hope again when all seems to be lost? And this was where you were at, you know. Mm-hmm. You both brought your past in, you're trying to fix it, but then when it feels like you two cannot come to a resolution, and you actually follow through on the divorce, what I remember was so hard with me is the health. My health, I ended up in the hospital, emergency rooms, my eating disorder kicked in, you know, it was all that stuff. How did you cope?
Yeah, so actually, my ex-husband actually left me at some point for his career. And I just remember that.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, I just remember at that point just feeling so abandoned. And I struggled with abandonment issues from my dad. And so
Your dad wasn't there when they divorced. So
Exactly.
the D word is kind of a rough one for you probably to begin with.
Right. And so I was struggling with feeling those feelings. And so I remember the night that he left, I actually ended up in the ER. I had a panic attack, and it was out of control, and I had to go in, and I was feeling like I was going to go crazy. It was really hurtful. But I did get through it, and I got some help, and I was able to navigate through some of that heaviness, and divorce recovery did help. So
Yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
that. What do they just talk through it? And I'm sorry, but the first thing that comes to my
Yeah.
mind, there's another counseling session, and they drag up all your past, and they talk about everything, and
yeah.
But is it like that or not at all?
You know what? It was more beneficial for me than counseling, because it's weekly, every week they have a subject. And so it can be depression, anxiety, loneliness, and they teach you how to deal with those feelings and what the Bible says about them.
I like
And
that.
yeah, and it's a group where you're not being shamed for the season you're in, and there's a lot of support and there's a lot of love. Like, I experience more unconditional love from that group than from my friends and my family. And so I truly suggest that to women that are going through a divorce or finalizing their divorce. I mean, it's been really amazing having that support, being able to cry and not be ashamed of where I was.
Wow. I remember when I opened the mailbox and that letter was in the mail, that it says marriage resolved.
Yeah.
And I thought I would be partying about it, but it's not like that.
Yeah.
It is like something has broken off in your life. But then you experienced all that.
Yeah.
And you're in the midst of all that, but then you have to build back up, because now from 2 incomes, you're to 1 income from an apartment. How did you work through all that?
Right. So we came to a common agreement that I remained in the home that we rented at the time, and it was just a deal we made. And so I decided, the Lord spoke to me about not filing for any support, and because my ex-husband was, in making very good money, and so the Lord told me, don't do it. And so
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because that's that support financially
know.
to get you through. I had the
Yeah.
same. I didn't ask for support either.
yeah, he said,
Yeah.
don't do it. At first I wanted to. Of course, part of me was like, I want to get him.
Get
and
him,
then after some prayer and some counsel, I was like, I'm not going to do it. And so we were actually talking about it, and we came to the common agreement of me staying in the home, and so it kind of worked out that way. And we were
Good, I'm
civil
glad.
still. And so it wasn't an ugly divorce, which was good.
Yeah.
But it was still hard and painful, but it just wasn't ugly, which I was thankful for. So
Well, that is good. Now you need a job. I'm not sure if you worked prior to that already. Did you?
yeah, I was working as a manager at a very busy retail store.
Okay.
And I wasn't really happy with my job, because I really want to pursue my calling with working with young women. I just didn't know what that looked like. I had that dream since the first couple months that I got saved.
Now,
7
was
years
that
ago.
partially because of your childhood and then falling into the stripper clubs? And by
Yeah.
the way, we have a whole show about that. Hugh, it will pop up on the screen right now where you can find that. But that show touched my life, and I know it will touch your life too. So go check it out. So, you had that whole background. And that's probably why the marriage was so hard to begin with, because you thought you did it all right?
Right.
That's such a
Right.
switch. But then you're not happy in your job. You just lost your marriage.
I know.
You know?
I know. I was just praying a lot, and all of a sudden, somebody I knew that worked at the job that I'm in now reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think you would be good for this job. What do you think?" And it was perfect, because it was at the right time, and I didn't feel worthy of having that job at the time. And I was like, "Oh no, I can't apply right now. I'm
Why
not in
not?
the right season."
Why not? If you work,
Yeah.
where did you go to work?
So I applied for Mercy Multiplied,
Uh-huh.
and it's a home for women, for young women that are recovering from different life struggling issues. and I wasn't feeling worthy of working there because of my whole mess with my divorce. And the Lord really...
But that actually,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I disagree, because that actually would completely qualify you double, because they all come out of broken marriages.
Sure.
Mostly anyway, I assume.
Yeah, and there are some that come out of broken marriages. I just was feeling really heavy still. And
I get it.
so I wasn't feeling in that place of the enemy was lying to me, and some days I believed him. And I actually, after some thinking and some prayers, actually applied. And as soon as my divorce was over, I actually submitted my application with Mercy Multiplied. And a couple months later, I actually got the position. Wow. And so it was amazing how it was really faith building, because I thought, well, I went through this whole mess now. I'm sure God won't bless me. And it was actually a huge blessing. The job that I have now, it's my dream. I love my job. Wow. I love my job. And so it was actually a blessing to see God move even through all of that pain.
Wow. And what you just said, that is so true. Satan, the legalist, will hold any legality against you to get even against you, against God. And we fall for it because we feel not worthy or we feel shame. How do you turn it around? Stay tuned. We will be right back.
I'm Janice, and I'm with The Real Deal with Barb Marshall show. I'm the associate producer, and I'm here to just talk to you a little bit about possibly being a guest on our show. I've been with the show for 7 years and have had some really amazing stories of people sharing how their lives have been changed with the relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you have a story that you'd like to share, contact our website at barbtv.org. We have a spot where you can actually sign up to be a guest on the show. I'm excited to be part of Barb TV. It's an exciting, powerful way of hearing God working. And I invite you to join us. Thanks.
About it, Gianna, that divorce is hard. Can you give me a couple of tips, since you went through divorce counseling, basically? You went through a group of that helped you. What are some of the crucial steps? And I am not saying divorce is the answer, but I am saying when you're there, instead of doing this to people, what are some steps that people can actually do to come alongside and help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being a person that's non-judgmental, it really helps. And just understanding that nobody really wants divorce. I didn't want divorce. It's not something that I really wanted. But just being that supportive friend or supporting mentor. And again, if there's a group people can go to, I think that's really beneficial. And just staying rooted in God, because the enemy will lie to you. And it's easy to go back to your past or go back to different things, turn to alcohol, turn to other men, turn to different things, but just making the choice to allow yourself to heal and go through the process.
How long does that take? Because to me it took a lot longer than I expected, a whole lot longer.
Yeah, so for me it took about 7-8 months to be able to forgive, and I knew when I was actually forgiven him. I remember just sitting at the table with all the people, and I'm like, I think I forgive him. I don't feel bitterness anymore. I don't feel those feelings anymore. And even now, I think back and there's no anger or bitterness. I can tell.
Why do you think that is so important?
It is, because moving forward, if you continue being that person, the enemy uses that, and so I think it robs you of your joy. It robs you of your daily joy, and it can make you sick. Whether it's emotionally, depression, anxiety. A lot of people going through divorce struggle with anxiety, panic attacks, depression, shame. You want to isolate. You don't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to be that person, and I fought hard to be who I am today after my divorce, and I'm not ashamed of going through it. So I think just being around people that love you through that, it's very key. And if people don't, just get rid of them.
Just move on.
Just move on. Yeah.
You love working at Mercy Multiplied today. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what exactly it is that you're doing there.
Yeah, so I'm actually working in the weekends. I'm the weekend supervisor, and I was so blessed with that job in the midst of all of that. I get to see women transformed by the power of God. We run the program, but also mentor the women. We pray for them, cry with them, listen to them, encourage them.
Basically everything that you were looking for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so excited to go to work every day. It's definitely a challenging job, but the joy that comes from working at Mercy, it doesn't compare to any of my jobs. I can't even believe I call it a job.
You like it that much?
I do. I love it. Yeah.
So now the people that come to you are pretty broken. Usually, they are kind of stuck in life. What are some of the issues that they're trying to recover from?
Sure. So we have various issues, from eating disorders, self-harm, sexual abuse, sex trafficking, depression, anxiety, just all kinds of different things like that. And these women are broken. They're hurt. They have been hurt. They're in a really rough spot. Some of them have tried everything and it's not working. And so they come to our program. Our program, it's free of charge, which is amazing. And we just teach them God's unconditional love, forgiveness, and that they can recover. And I love, you know my story.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that I'm able to share parts of my story with them.
That must help them hugely,
Absolutely.
when you went from where you were to you're at today. And the divorce, God sees everything the same level. There is no difference in there. So I think that God almost created that job for you, to be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've gone through a lot of addictions, like drug, alcohol addiction, and working in the strip clubs and all that. And I can really relate to some parts of their story, and they can relate with my story. And so it's such a beautiful thing to be able to understand what they're going through, and I love that. I love that God chose me to be in that home. I'm very
you
blessed.
actually are working with something like the glass slipper too. What's all that about?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Cinderella,
Yeah, so I was doing the glass slipper for a season, but the Lord called me fully into Mercy Multiplied. So right now I'm fully dedicated to Mercy Multiplied. He has told me to not take anything else on and just give 100% of me there. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working full-time at Mercy Multiplied. But the glass slipper, I have worked with them before. I think I mentioned that in my last time when I was on the show.
So many people are looking for hope and a future.
Yeah.
So what do you believe God has called you to for your hope and your future at this point?
Yeah, so I'm excited. I feel like God redeemed everything that I've gone through, and He is the great Redeemer. And no matter what I will be going through, even moving forward, I'm so just trusting the Lord with everything. I've gone through so much that I can say now I have so much trust in God that I'm very hopeful for my future. I'm hopeful to see where God is taking me. I have my dream job. I'm dating again. And I just feel like the Lord really healed my heart, and it feels really good, really good.
The joy of the Lord's back with you.
Yeah.
Gianna, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
And then told you a little earlier, I divorced. I became a hateful, angry, frustrated woman, and was apart for about 2 years. And in that time, I turned to God like Gianna did. Mine took a little different turn though, and I never wanted to be with him again. And like I said told you earlier, I was shooting his tires when he was driving by. But then in the Bible, it talks about forgiveness. And as long as there's hatred in your heart, you are stuck. You are stuck. And in the Bible, it says this, and I want to share it with you. And it's out of Hebrews 12, starting at verse 1. And this is what it says. And I think this will help you too. Therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance, every problem, everything that stays in the way, everything that holds you back. Let it go. Give it to God. Release it. Move on. And it says encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles. And you know which one is one of the biggest sins out there, even if they're all equal? Your judgment against the other person for saying, how dare you? Because when you judge, you give Satan legal rights to use that against your own life for the judgment for who you chose to be and that unforgiveness in your heart. So I challenge you right now. Will you forgive and let go? And you say, Barb, I can't. It's absolutely impossible. You're right. It is for you, but not for him. He can teach you. When I got to the point that I said, God, help me to forgive because I cannot do it on my own, it came. It is all about obedience and giving it over. And it says here, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. Look up. The author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, that you will not grow weary and not lose heart. And this is a message for all of those that are out there right now that are divorced. Is it God's will? No. Does it mean you're worse than anybody else? No. Sometimes space is needed, and all I'm telling you, please don't lose heart and take an example at Gianna right now, who chose to look up instead of out, who chose to forgive, to not retaliate, and to turn it around, that God still got the glory and not the shame. Will you do the same? I will challenge you for that right now. Of course you want to talk. I remarried after 2 years, but not everybody has that. So I understand where you're coming from. Please call us, 855-515-5550, or go to our website, barbtv.org. And know this, that God will not leave you where you're at, but also has hope for you. And what the Lord told me while we were talking to you this morning, that there is about 20 of you right now out there that think this will give you the right to divorce. And I completely am not agreeing with that. Make sure you're straight there before you decide here, like Gianna did. God loves you, and so do I. 855-515-5550, and know that God will never leave you or forsake you. Pray to God and said, show me his dream, show me. And he got the dream and he got the answer, and he whispers in their ears and terrifies them with warnings. So I could not fix it that moment. There was nothing I could do. I could look into the dream, into this vision, but I couldn't fix it that moment. All the people, but there was a sense of death and yet a sense of life, all in the same feeling that I could see while I was looking down at these people. I was seeing that. I was close to it this time, and I noticed that. Very important when you start to dream and you receive from God a dream like that, that you thank him for that and you start saying to the Lord, show me what the meaning is. You can do the same. Show me, why did I dream this, and what is the meaning of this dream?